unlock your world one word at a time, because language isn't just about learning, it's about living. Learning a new language isn't just about words. It's about expanding your horizons, enhancing your career, and connecting with people globally. Whether you're a language learner or educator, the Languages Pedagogy Podcast is your go-to resource for expert insights, innovative strategies, and practical tips to supercharge your language journey. Tune in now to sharpen your skills, deepen your understanding, and join a community passionate about the power of language. Let's get started. Wonderful listeners, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. Today, we're diving into a topic that often feels like the backbone of language learning: grammar. Specifically, we're going to explore when to learn grammar, how to apply it, and how to decide when you're ready to tackle more complex structures. Grammar can be intimidating, but it's essential for anyone who wants to express themselves accurately and confidently. So, how do you know when it's time to focus on grammar, especially the advanced parts? And how can you make sure that you're applying it in a way that improves your fluency rather than slowing you down? That's what we'll cover in this episode. We'll discuss how to build a solid foundation, when and how to incorporate advanced grammar, and techniques to apply what you've learned in real conversations. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear roadmap for mastering grammar without feeling overwhelmed. Let's get started.
Audio Jungle.
Let's start by exploring why grammar matters in language learning. Grammar isn't just about rules. It's a framework that allows us to structure thoughts and ideas so we're understood clearly. One, providing structure. Grammar provides structure to language, allowing us to convey complex ideas accurately. Without grammar, sentences would be hard to understand and meaning would be lost. 2. Building confidence. When you have a good grasp of grammar, you feel more confident speaking and writing. It reassures you that your messages are clear, making you more comfortable using the language in real situations. 3. Understanding others. Knowing grammar doesn't just help with expressing yourself. It also aids in understanding native speakers. Recognizing grammatical patterns in conversations or text can make it easier to understand complex sentences. 4. Going beyond basics. A basic vocabulary can help you in simple conversations, but grammar allows you to dive deeper. With a strong grasp of grammar, you can engage in more complex discussions and talk about abstract topics like opinions, future plans, or hypothetical situations. Here, what are the takeaways? Grammar is essential for clarity, confidence, comprehension, and depth in language. It equips you with the tools needed to express ideas accurately and to understand others effectively. Now, let's discuss when to start focusing on grammar in the language learning process, particularly if you're a beginner. First, basic grammar first. At the beginning, focus on essential grammar, simple rules that allows you to form sentences. This includes basic sentence structure, subject-verb agreement, and simple tenses. These are the building blocks you need to start communicating right away. Second, build vocabulary first. Some learners prefer to build vocabulary before diving into grammar. Having a basic vocabulary allows you to create simple sentences and communicate early on, giving you a feel for the language without being overwhelmed by rules. Third, prioritize communication. In the early stages, prioritize communication over perfection. Your sentences might be basic and grammatically imperfect, but the goal is to start using the language. You'll naturally start picking up grammar patterns through this practice, even before you formally study them. 4. Introduce grammar slowly. Once you're comfortable with basic sentence and vocabulary, gradually start introducing grammar rules. Focus on one concept at a time, like the past tense or question formation, and practice using it in sentences. So, all in all, begin with basic grammar. First, sentence formation. Focus on communication, and add more complex grammar as you gain vocabulary and confidence. So how do you know when you're ready for complex grammar structures? Here are a few guidelines to help you decide. Identify your communication goals. The best time to learn advanced grammar is when it's necessary for what you want to say. For example, if you want to discuss past events, it's time to learn the past tense. Let your communication needs guide your grammar learning. Make sure the basics are solid. Before diving into complex grammar, make sure you're comfortable with the basics. Advanced grammar often builds on foundational rules, so it's crucial to feel confident in simple sentence structures. Tackle one rule at a time. When you're ready for complex grammar, take it one step at a time. Trying to learn multiple structures at once can be overwhelming. Master one concept fully before moving on to the next to ensure a solid understanding. Practice in context. Don't study complex grammar in isolation. Practice using it in real sentences and conversations. This makes the rules easier to remember and gives you a chance to see how they work in practice. All in all, approach complex grammar when it aligns with your communication goals. Build on a strong foundation, tackle one rule at a time, and practice in context for the best results. Now that we've covered when to start and when to advance, let's talk about some strategies for studying grammar in a way that sticks. Use a good grammar resource. A reliable grammar book or app is essential. Look for resources that explain concepts clearly and include examples. Some popular options are Essential Grammar in Use by Raymond Murphy for beginners, or Practice Makes Perfect series for more advanced learners. Spaced repetition for retention. Spaced repetition can help you retain grammar rules over time. Use flashcards or apps like Anki or Quizlet to regularly review rules and examples. This method reinforces grammar in your long-term memory. Focus on patterns over rules. Rather than memorizing isolated rules, look for patterns in a language. Many languages have predictable structures, and recognizing this can make it easier to apply grammar intuitively. Write regularly. Writing is an excellent way to practice grammar because it allows you to think about each sentence carefully. Start with simple journal entries or emails in your target language, and gradually incorporate new grammar rules as you learn them. Get feedback. Working with a native speaker, tutor, or language partner can be extremely helpful for improving grammar. They can point out any mistake and offer suggestions, helping you to understand and apply the rules more accurately. All in all here, use a structured resource, leverage spaced repetition, focus on patterns, practice through writing, and seek feedback for a well-rounded grammar study routine. Learning grammar is one thing. Using it in real conversations is another one. Here are some tips for applying grammar naturally in speaking. 1. Use grammar in context. Whenever you learn a new rule, try using it in conversation. For instance, if you've learned the future tense, find ways to talk about upcoming plans. This helps you reinforce the rule and gain confidence using it in real situations. 2. Learn common sentence patterns. Many languages have set phrases or patterns that can help you apply grammar without overthinking. For example, instead of focusing on the rules of conditional sentences, memorize phrases like if I were or I wish and practice using them. 3. Don't rush. When trying to apply grammar, slow down if you need to. Give yourself time to think through sentences, especially when using a new structure. This might mean taking pauses in conversations, but it's worth doing it to ensure accuracy. 4. Practice with scripts or prompts. To get more comfortable, use pre-written scripts or prompts for practice. Try constructing sentences on common topics like travel, hobbies, or future plans. Practicing this ahead of time makes it easier to use the grammar naturally in conversations. 5. Embrace corrections. If a native speaker or tutor corrects you, see it as a valuable learning opportunity. Note down corrections and review them to prevent repeating the same mistakes. What are the takeaways here? Apply grammar in context by practicing set phrases, taking your time, using prompts, and embracing feedback to improve your conversational grammar. Grammar is important, but it's just one part of language learning. Here's how to balance grammar study with other key skills. Integrate grammar and vocabulary. When learning new vocabulary, focus on how words are used grammatically. This helps reinforce both grammar and vocabulary by seeing words in context. Listen for grammar in conversations. Listening is an excellent way to reinforce grammar because it shows you how native speakers use it naturally. Pay attention to sentence structures, verb conjugations, and tense changes as you listen to podcasts, shows, or conversations. Practice speaking regularly. Speaking is the skill that will truly test your grammar in real time. Make sure to practice speaking consistently, even if you're talking to yourself or recording yourself. Speaking forces you to apply grammar naturally and helps make it feel intuitive. Read for exposure. Reading helps you see grammar structures in action. When reading, pay attention to sentence formation, complex structures, and how grammar varies in different contexts. This reinforces your understanding and introduces you to advanced grammar gradually. What are the takeaways here in this part? Balance grammar with vocabulary, listening, speaking, and reading for a well-rounded approach to language learning. Many learners feel overwhelmed by the amount of grammar in the language. Here are some strategies to manage that feeling. First, prioritize what's relevant. Focus on learning grammar that's directly relevant to your goals. If you're preparing for casual conversations, you don't need to master advanced academic structures right away. Second, take it one step at a time. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Break down complex grammar into manageable chunks and learn one rule or structure at a time. Third, accept imperfection. No one speaks perfectly, not even native speakers. Don't get discouraged by minor mistakes or try to achieve perfection from the start. Embrace mistakes as part of the learning process. 4. Focus on communication. Remember that grammar is just a tool for communication. The goal is to be understood. So if your sentences aren't perfectly constructed but still convey the meaning, that's the progress. So what are the takeaways here? Avoid overwhelm by focusing on relevant grammar, learning gradually, accepting imperfections, and keeping communication as the main goal. As we wrap up today's episode, remember that grammar doesn't need to be daunting. It's there to help you express ideas clearly and communicate confidently. Start with the basics, introduce complex structures when you're ready, and practice in real conversations to make grammar feel natural and intuitive. And before we head to the next part, I hope you really enjoyed this episode about grammar. I hope you find it very interesting and overall helpful. I just want to remind you that new episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So make sure to tune in weekly for your dose of thought-provoking conversations. You can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You also can actually pay a visit to our website, MikeEnglishOnline.com, where you will find tons of resources there, where you can download books, PDFs, PPTs, all of them for free. So you can have a better learning, a better teaching moment. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and follow us for more. And thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. I hope today's episode has helped demystify grammar and given you a clearer path for approaching it in your language studies. I'd love to hear about your experiences with grammar. So feel free to reach out and share what works best for you. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and remember, grammar is just a tool for connection.